Alrighty, everybody. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing good. It is good to have you guys here for another evening update here on the tropics, my friends. We got some new info, including our first cone, our first look here at the system that we're going to be watching that's going to be hitting the United States here in the next several days. So we do need everybody to start preparing, to everybody to start getting ready for the storm here, as it is going to be quite impactful, regardless of basically where it ends up. But what's up, everybody? Good to see y'all. Hope everyone is doing well. Let's see what we got here today. We have Mark. What's up, Mark? Good to see you, man. We got Scott. We got, I have no idea how to say your name, Nique. Well, hope good to see you as well, my friend. What's up, Tabletop? What's up, Yolan? Good to see ya. Tabletop saying starting to get extremely worried in Wellington. I wouldn't panic over it. I mean, obviously there still is a bit of uncertainty here. Towards the end of the cone, the cone of uncertainty is massive, essentially. Here, let's bring up the latest chat. The cone of shame. It is the cone of shame, isn't it? But yeah, so the end of the line here, the uncertainty is pretty big still, but it could, and it is expected to become a problem for the United States Southeast coast here, and it is expected to become a hurricane. So we'll definitely be looking out there for that. Also, there's some big development on Humberto here. Humberto's quite a beast now. I'll tell you what, let's hop over to MDR here real quickly. We'll go ahead and load up the satellite view, but look at that thing, man. We got a well-defined eye and everything on Humberto. It's definitely picked up quite a bit here. So right now, Humberto is a Category 3 major hurricane here, sustained at 115 miles per hour. So it is quite a beast, but it is actually expected to become a Category 4 here pretty soon. It's actually going to be remaining a Cat 4 for quite a while now. Let's see. Peak forecast has 140, 145, 150. Wow. So Hurricane Center has this thing really... I mean, that's not far from Cat 5. By the way, this is not the one that's going to impact the United States directly. This one could be an issue for Bermuda, though, because Bermuda is now again in the cone, and it's still expected to be, maybe a major hurricane or, Category 2 as it kind of approaches near Bermuda. So, yeah, this storm here could be a bit of an issue for Bermuda. I mean, regardless, it's going to cause some rough seas and, rip currents and stuff like that for Bermuda, so that's something we need to look out for. Let's see here. Let's see. Humberto's likely going to make a run for Cat. Yeah, I think so. I think it has a chance to, anyways. But let's talk about this guy. So this is the one that's going to be causing some issues for the country. So right now, it's nothing more than just a bunch of disorganized showers and storms. It is a tropical depression now, or technically a potential tropical cyclone, but it is basically a depression here almost, in which, this thing is currently clocking in at 35 sustained. Central low right now is down to 1,007 millibars. Now, we're going to continue to watch this thing pull north for the next several days here. This is going to be bringing some concerns for the Bahamas. Matter of fact, the Hurricane Center, they already have warnings in place for the Bahamas. Let's go ahead and bring that up and show you guys here. Let's hop over to our experimental cone here, and we'll bring you guys over to this. So this is from the Hurricane Center's page here. The blue here, these are those warnings, those tropical storm warnings that are in effect here. You guys can see it down here. Tropical storm warnings. So those are in effect for some of the islands like the Exuma and Cays, Long Island. Not the Long Island we all know up in the Northeast. No, this is for the Bahamas, Cat Island as well, San Salvador. So yeah, these areas here are in the tropical storm warnings where we are expecting tropical storm conditions to occur. Now to the north, we actually already have some watches in place too for the northern Bahamas. So I really wouldn't consider making any plans to go to the Bahamas anytime soon because, yeah, the system's going to be kind of rolling through. Anyways, so you can see the timing here. 2 p.m. Sunday, the system will be kind of right around the northern Bahamas. 2 a.m. on Sunday, right there kind of towards the central Bahamas here. And it'll continue to work its way up the coast here. 2 a.m. Monday, still a tropical storm, likely a high-end tropical storm at this point. And then, of course, we approach early afternoon on Monday, where the Hurricane Center has this thing becoming a hurricane here. At this point in time, it would be a Category 1 overall. And then, of course, we continue into the afternoon of Tuesday. Then we, continue to still be a hurricane, but they do have it dropping back down into tropical storm strength here for 2 p.m. Wednesday. I don't know if that's going to stick or not because it's going to be a hurricane right on the coast here. So regardless, we do need the U.S. East Coast to be watching this here very, very closely. This thing is going to be a bit of an issue regardless, of where it ends up essentially. So, you could see here in the cone. So the cone is where the center of the storm could track. That's not where the effects of the storm are going to be felt. I want to make that clear for a lot of people. This is like where the center, of the storm, where the eye is essentially could go. And you could see it could go as far up to the north here as, coastal North Carolina, could even, go as far down south as, northeastern coastal Florida. So there still is a bit of uncertainty there. But the middle ground, the average has it going right towards like South Carolina as of now. But things can still change quite a bit. Let's see here. Why is the cone out of no center? Why is a cone out if no center is... Oh! Sorry. I can't... Why is the cone out if no center is yet to be seen yet? Well, because it's about to. And it's honestly looking pretty good, though. Hurricane Center already wanted to kind of get some of those warnings in place and stuff like that as well. So that's why it's been established. Because, it's not going to be that much time before... Bahamas, will be getting impacted here. So, like we said, we already got some of those warnings in place here. Let's see. Hi, I'm in Bermuda. I thought we were in the clear, but the track shifted back to the east. Could it shift closer and cause some of the models are showing up? Yeah, it's definitely possible. We were just talking about that actually here. So for my folks up there in Bermuda, it would definitely not hurt to watch it because Humberto, the other system, the big hurricane we have right now, Humberto, regardless, is likely going to be causing some concern, for the island of Bermuda. Because, even if it, does a far pass, it's still going to be really moving that water around. It's going to be a big hurricane. It's a strong one, too. It's supposed to be a Cat 4. Like I mentioned, we could even have a run at a Cat 5 at some point. It's close. It's really close. But, like we mentioned, regardless, there's going to be quite a bit of rip current concerns, a lot of rough seas out there. So, there's going to be impacts regardless, pretty much at this point, for Bermuda. But in terms of, like, tropical storm, hurricane conditions, we cannot be for sure quite yet. But, given that you're in the cone, that theoretically means that the center of the storm could go near you. So that's why we do need you to still absolutely be watching this here very, very closely, as it could definitely be a bit of a concern down in time. Absolutely. Sean says, is there going to be 2 hurricanes? Yes. So this one is already a hurricane. This one right here, this one is called Humberto. You can already see it has a well-defined eye. It's already looking pretty good here. System's going to continue tracking kind of northwest. This thing is a Cat 3 sustaining at 115 miles an hour right now. Central load down to 962 millibars. By the time we do our next update here, this thing will likely be a Category 4 storm, and it's supposed to remain a Category 4 for days, honestly, for the next several days. So, like we mentioned, this thing does have a pretty good shot at maybe becoming stronger than Cat 4, which we'll have to see. Now, the other one, this is the one that's going to directly make landfall in the United States. There's still kind of need to figure out where the exact pinpoint of landfall is going to be, but, we're kind of thinking right now right around South Carolina. Let me actually bring up those models for you guys. We'll go ahead and show that for y'all. Yeah, here you go. So that's, what's really interesting? Here's the latest guidance on the track here. Let's actually bring you guys over to that real quickly. We got a few models now, kind of maybe shifting out to sea, hopefully, but we still got quite a few that has it going right there. From what it looks like, the system's probably going to really slow down as it kind of approaches just off the U.S. East Coast. I mean, it could make, that direct landfall. Like I said, the margin's still pretty big on where the thing could go, but there's a little bit of support here of the thing, getting right up on the coast and then maybe pulling out. Still half the models show it hitting land here, so we'll have to see. I mean, this could just be a singular run. That was, let's see, that's the 0 UTC run. Let's try the 18 UTC. Yeah, so the 18 UTC, I only had a few of them kind of going out to sea, but majority has it kind of going up there by like Savannah, maybe Hilton Head Island, right off the coast of South Carolina here. So we'll have to see what happens with it. I mean, obviously, things are still up for grabs, but regardless, it's definitely going to be quite a bit of a concern here for us out there. So we'll definitely need to start preparing for it. Now's a great time if you are not, already prepared for hurricane season. Just make sure that you guys are ready, especially, across the U.S. Southeast coast, coastal Florida, coastal Georgia, North South Carolina. We need everybody to get ready for the potential of this system to become a problem for us. There still is a lot of things we need to work out here, but from what it looks like, I mean, it's going to be pretty close. Regardless, it's going to be a hurricane right off the coast of the United States, and we'll likely, like I said, we'll likely probably see some landfall somewhere. So, what will happen if it does not turn away? Well, if it does not turn away, then it'll hit the U.S. I mean. Yeah, I mean, there is a chance it could, but it's, that we'll have to see what happens here. Still, majority of the models have it hitting South Carolina here. Is there any chance it could do a Sandy and hit New York? Heavily unlikely. I don't think so. Nah, because, I mean, even the farthest east point of the cone has it kind of going over here just off the coast of, like, North Carolina and stuff. I mean, it would have to take a very aggressive approach. I mean, there's nothing that would really steer it back into the northeast from what I see. So, no, I don't think so. What's the chances of it getting a Category 2? There's not a whole lot of guidance on it right now. I mean, right now the Hurricane Center has it, bottom or topping out, I should say, right at kind of low-end Category 1. I mean, we'll have to see what happens. We'll definitely have to monitor it here. Let's actually look at some of those individual models here. I'm going to bring you guys over to the HWRF model here. Here, let's hop you guys over here to that right now. So this is the other storm here. Let's go to 09L. Okay, so you can see HWRF has the system really picking up some strength. Just off the coast of Florida here, 985 millibars. Does get down into the, oh wow, look at that, kind of stalls right off of South Carolina's coast. See, that would actually be very bad if it did that, because yeah, I mean, if it stalls right off the, right off of like the Carolina coast, that would dump a lot of rain for these areas here. Not to mention those, hurricane force, maybe tropical storm force winds would still be like over that area for a period of time. I honestly hope it doesn't do that, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, you can see the system. HWRF has this thing really picking up some strength here. Pressure down into the 970s on the latest run here. Here, let's do some more comparing here. We got the HMON here on 09L. HMON a little bit weaker, but this one actually has it fully going into the United States here, unlike the HWRF. So yeah, still kind of a mixed amount of opinions here. Some of the models have it going out, going up to the coast, stalling, pulling to the east, and then you got some of the models that have it literally just kind of digging its way into the country here, which, regardless of what happens, it's still going to be very impactful. That's kind of what I'm a little bit worried about, but. Yeah, but like I said, now is the time to prepare, you guys. I mean, like I said, we already do have warnings in place here for the Bahamas. So we obviously, if you're out in the Bahamas, make sure that you guys are watching this thing closely, man. Like I said, for some of those central islands here, like the Zuma and Cays, Cat Island, Long Island, San Salvador. Let's see here. What is that? Rum Cay. So, these areas here, these are already in warning, meaning that, we are expecting tropical storm conditions to occur, across the areas here in the blue. And in the yellow, these are those watches that are in place, the tropical storm watches saying, hey, tropical storm conditions are certainly possible in the future. So just monitor the local, weather and just keep an eye on the conditions and stuff, which we'll do. No warnings or watches for the United States yet. Those will probably take another day or two, possibly. It depends on what it ends up doing. So just keep it out there for that. But, now would be a great time. I mean, if you're across the U.S. East Coast, along the cone here, coastal North Carolina, coastal South Carolina, coastal Georgia, Florida, we should start preparing. Just make sure that you have enough food and water. What I do really recommend during these systems is that, you find your most safe part of your home, central portion of your home, and you fill it up with all your important documents. First aid kit would be good, medicines, food, water, of course, battery powered radio, extra portable chargers, stuff like that. And now would also be a great time to make sure that, if you have a generator, make sure it's properly up to spec, make sure it has new oil, make sure it has good gasoline in it. Stuff like that is very, very important. That way you guys can just make sure you're ready by the time the system does get here. I mean, we still have several days to prepare for this, at least here in the United States. Like I said, Bahamas, it's kind of almost an imminent danger for you guys here because, this is literally 2 a.m. on Sunday where we're going to be seeing some of the tropical storm effects and stuff like that. Honestly, even earlier than that, probably later tomorrow, we'll start to see some of that. So, anyways, we'll definitely keep it out there for it. Let's see. Devin says, hi, Andrew. Can both hurricanes merge into one, making a mega hurricane 200 mile per hour? Great content as always. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. So what usually happens whenever you get two systems near each other, there's something called the Fujiwara effect, which is basically these two systems, they kind of dance around each other. They kind of revolve around each other, kind of like Earth and its moon. They kind of revolve. Mostly the moon revolves around the Earth, but, they kind of dance around each other. They kind of orbit, essentially. Sometimes they can do that. Sometimes, but no, it wouldn't combine and create a mega hurricane. No, that would not happen. Let's see. Do people in Florida need to prepare? I heard someone lives in Central Florida already has sandbags in the area. I don't think that's really necessary. No. Like we mentioned, the cone does include portions of northeastern Florida's coast, like Jacksonville, Palm Coast. But the latest trend has it going up towards South Carolina, and some even, going right up to South Carolina and then turning to the right here, which we still need to figure that out. But I don't think so. Obviously, if you're along Florida's coast, still monitor it. Still keep an eye on it. It's good to, be ready in case if something happens, overall. What's up, Frankie? Good to see you, man. Saying thank you, Andrew. Yeah, of course. Of course. But yeah, so like I said, we'll definitely just make sure that you guys are, staying up to date with everything over the next few days. We do need you guys to be weather aware, of course, and just ready to tackle the storm here. But like I said, right now it's a potential tropical cyclone, expected to become a tropical storm here kind of sometime either late tomorrow or for the early Sunday commute. So either later tomorrow or early Sunday, we'll see the system likely become a tropical storm, remaining a tropical storm for a little bit. Like I said, it is expected to become a hurricane here, in which we are going to be seeing, the system here, lower end hurricane sustaining right around 75 miles an hour. We're still going to be gusting about 90 or so. So got to keep an eye out there for that. And then, of course, it'll continue to go closer to the U.S. We'll have to see what happens once it gets to this point. The point of landfall is still kind of unknown right now. It could make landfall anywhere here in the cone. Like I said, there's a lot of different opinions here that kind of shows what happens. Some of the models go right into the United States. Some of the models go right on the coast and then start to turn maybe eastward. We'll definitely have to see regardless here. Then, of course, once again, we do have Humberto here. Humberto is quite a beast already. Like I said, right now, Category 3, 115 sustained, central load down to 962 millibars. This is the one that will not be directly impacting the U.S., but like I said, could be an issue for Bermuda down in time. So just a heads up for my Bermuda folks. Once again, just keep an eye out there for it. But, like I said, it could even have a run at Cat 5. Remember, this is not the one. I don't want to confuse anybody. The one right here that could potentially get near Cat 5 is not going to be the one that's going to hit the United States. This one is Humberto. This is the one that's out away from the United States, but could still pose a concern for Bermuda. And then, of course, we do have ourselves, this one here, potential tropical cyclone 9 here. This is the one that we're going to really need to look out for. I think the name's Amilda. Is that how you say it? Let's see. How's the dry air looking for the models? So the models do show maybe a little bit of dry air. Kind of getting into the storm here. Let's hop you guys back over here. Let's hop to HWRF here. So HWRF, I don't think shows as much drier air. There's a bit of dry air to the south. You can see, the core still relatively moist for the most part. You could start to see maybe a little bit of dry air, starting to get into it. Like I said, the HWRF here doesn't have as much dry air as, say the HMON does. You can see, HMON shows a lot of dry air, kind of getting on the eastern flank of the storm here. So, and another thing I do want to actually mention as well, which is typical for tropical cyclones, say this thing, does ultimately make that landfall, and the right-hand side of the storm, does go over into land. The right-hand side, there could be a tornado threat as well. That's the thing you got to look out for, is that on the right-hand side of a system, that is where the tornado threat would be. So there could be some tornadic concern here with this as well, if it does make that deep inland approach. Like I said, there's kind of two scenarios right now. Scenario 1 has it going right into the United States. Scenario 2 has it going right to the coast and then pulling away, which would still be, a big problem for the United States regardless. So, anyways, let's see. Okay, cool, thanks. Yeah, no problem. You're very, very welcome. But yeah, so that's what's going on there. Some models do show a little bit of dry air. Like I said, especially the HMON model here. Let's see. What about HAFSB? HAFSB kind of shows the system. Yeah, it has it kind of right there towards like Savannah. That goes right over Hilton Head Island there. I used to go there all the time. Beautiful place, man. But yeah, dude, it goes right there towards like Savannah, according to the HFSB model. It does show a bit of drier air on the right-hand side, left-hand side relatively saturated. But you know what? Like I said, regardless of this thing coming in, especially if it stalls, it's just gonna dump a lot of rain. Just continuous pounding of rain, along some of these coastal areas, which will be a huge flooding concern. Let's see here. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. Do I think it will be bad? So Columbia, here, let me pull up where Columbia is. I'm not exactly familiar with the area. Okay. So, Columbia is central South Carolina. Yeah, so obviously you're inland a bit, which, makes things a little bit better. It's not as impactful. Most of the heavy impacts are, for the coastal areas. But, depending on what it could do, it could still bring a lot of rain for the area. Definitely do need you to watch it pretty closely. I would definitely consider keeping an eye out there for it. It could definitely still be pretty windy as well by the time we do get there. Looking at the lower level dynamics, you can see that the coastal areas will definitely be getting some of the worst of it, but the inland areas, still will be getting some strong winds and stuff like that, especially in terms of gusts. But, I think a lot of the inland concerns would probably be mostly a big flooding threat here overall. So, anyways. Let's see here. If I can, what % chance for Humberto to become a Category 5, if I could guess? So based off, I'm not going to give you an exact percentage because, it's a little bit unknown right now. But I'd say it's a good 40% chance. I know I said I wouldn't, but, if I was to say it 40%, but there's no way of being, for sure on that. There's really, yeah, there's really just no way for being for sure on that. But that's just based off of my guess. I mean, it's certainly a good possibility. I mean, given it's close, I mean, already. By the way, this is not the system that will be impacting the United States. This one right here is, but the one I'm talking about, which is Humberto, which is this guy. The one on the right, this is Humberto. This will be Amilda. I think that's how you say it. So, Stuart says, thank you so much. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, just please be careful. Like I said, a lot of you guys, along the U.S. East Coast, just make sure you have everything up to date, ready to go. I mean, we can start preparing for the system now, as we should. So we'll definitely still keep an eye out there, for those regions over the next several days. But, now would be a good time to, really start preparing here for the system. And, like I said, make sure everything's up to maintenance. Make sure that you have, those generators ready to go. Make sure they have good oil, good gas in them. Regardless, just make sure that they're ready to go if you guys want to have that for your storm. And just put all of your stuff in your safe area. But like I said, we'll still continue to monitor it. Over the next few days, we'll learn more about the system and more of the direct impacts here, because there still is a little bit of uncertainty still. But regardless of what happens at this point, the impacts are likely going to be pretty big. So, let's see here. Turgan says, my parents are in Conway, which is coastal, and let's see, dang swamp off their backyard is going to rise, I bet. Where's Conway? What state is that? I mean, I could look over there and see kind of what we're looking at. I think that the WPC, yeah, so they've issued, here, let me go and show you guys this. They've put up a rainfall map here for PTC 9. And they don't have it for the United States yet, because obviously it's still, several days out, and there's going to be a lot of changes overall. But yeah, I mean, look at that. So we do have a good 6 to 8 inches in some of the Bahamas. It's going to get pretty crazy out there. It's going to be quite a bit of flooding, to be a concern. Isolated 10 inches or greater up there in eastern Cuba. Wow. It's going to be a lot of rain with the system. That's, to be honest with you guys, that is what I'm really worried about for the most part, is the rain, the flooding part. Yeah, we're going to have likely some strong winds, maybe hurricane force winds and stuff like that. But, my main concern for you guys is going to be the flooding. That's one of the main concerns that I have on the system here overall. Let's see here. That's what worries me for those going to be affected if it stalls. Yeah, so if it stalls, if the system slows down, which in the forecast is expected to, if the system, picks up some speed, continues to the north, and then it starts to really slow down, just off the coast, that's a big problem, because it's just, like I said, going to dump rain after rain after rain as it sits there. And not to mention, you're going to have tons of the winds just continually batting those coastal areas, which, that'll make the length in which of the storm is a lot longer, if that makes sense. The impacts are going to be extended a lot longer, than, say, a fast system. A fast system comes in, goes out pretty quickly. This system comes in, slows down, and holds those threats here. Matt says, any threat to Tampa? No, Tampa's fine. This system is just going to be well on the east side of Florida. Yeah, Tampa, yeah, not a problem. System, I mean, at closest point is still going to be well off of the U.S., off of Florida's Space Coast here. More than likely, like I said, the thing is going to be going towards like South Carolina, at least what guidance suggests now, which, things could definitely change quite a bit. But anyways, let's see here. My home in Clearwater had 5 feet of the Gulf in this time last year. Wow, dude. Goodness. Let's see here. Turgan says, Jax is where I'm at. Oh, you're in Jacksonville? Gotcha. Well, yeah, Jacksonville, you're still in the cone here, but at this point in time, it's pretty unlikely that it'll make landfall in Florida. I don't think it will. But, who knows? I mean, we'll have to see. It just depends on how close. I mean, it could bring some rain, especially that western side we were talking about. The western side of the storm is going to be fairly saturated. There's going to be a lot of moisture on the western side of the storm here, which I'll go ahead and show you guys back at the models here. So this is our humidity throughout the atmosphere. You can see the southern side, pretty dry. The eastern side pulling in a lot of dry air, but the west, like I said, just brings in a lot of precipitation or a lot of moisture. Grabbing soundings, look how saturated those SQT charts are. I mean, there's pretty close dew point temperature line here that indicates, high humidity, tons of moisture. So that is, that's that. Let's see here. Nah, rain, more rain. yeah. A lot of people do need it for sure. Hurricane Milton hit us hard last year. Yeah, it did. Let's see here. What's Matt? Thank you, dude, for the 10. I really appreciate that. Saying some dude, bro. I lost everything in Helene. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, dude. Yeah, Helene was a bad one. Helene was definitely a bad storm for sure. I mean, Milton was pretty bad too, but you know what, Matt? I tell you what, dude. Things can be replaced, but lives cannot. And the fact that you made it out okay is what matters. That is what matters, my friend. The fact that you're okay, that is all that really matters. Things can be replaced, things can be fixed, and everything like that, but lives cannot. So definitely happy about that, dude. But thank you, man, for the 5. You really didn't have to do that, my friend. That's greatly appreciated. So, yeah. But, yeah, like I said, I mean, we'll just definitely keep an eye on it over the next few days. We're going to start, or we're just still going to continue to learn some more, information, as time goes on, essentially. We'll definitely continue to learn a lot more, over the next few days. Right now, like I said, there's really kind of 2 scenarios. I'll go ahead and bring you guys back to the models here. There is kind of 2 scenarios that we have here. Scenario 1 is that the system comes in and it makes landfall somewhere along the U.S. southeast coast. You can see a majority of the models have it towards like South Carolina here. Scenario 2, which would still be a very impactful scenario, if not one of the most impactful. If the system comes in, it slows down and stalls, dumping rain after rain, strong winds along the coastal areas, and then starts to shift eastward. The reason it could shift eastward is because of Humberto. Like I said, there's a phenomenon called the Fujiwara effect, which is basically when, you have 2 cyclones, in this case, 2 tropical cyclones that kind of revolve around each other. They can kind of influence their own direction. In which, that could be a concern. It depends on Humberto's track. If it goes further east, the influence of this storm going eastward would be a little bit lower, I believe. If Humberto moves a little bit further west, and I feel like it might pull the system a little bit further out, hopefully. Also, it's not just on where it goes, but also how big and how strong both of the systems are. If the system becomes bigger than expected, it's going to be moving around a little bit less because of its mass. If it's a smaller system, it's more susceptible to be dragged around, essentially, if that makes sense. The tropical systems are very, very, very interesting. You got size, the mass of the storm, you got the strength, all of that really matters whenever it comes to the tracks and stuff like that. So anyways, let's see. Yep, that's all that matters. My Florida flag and Dad's ashes. Oh, well, dude, like I said, I'm just glad that you made it all right, man. Absolutely. Let's see here. Carrot says, how would the low pressure entering into the eastern U.S. possibly impact the tornado threat in case of a direct landfall? So, the main tornado threat would be, like we mentioned, is if the system really digs its way inland, and if that right-hand side of the storm goes deep enough inland, because, like we mentioned, cyclone-induced tornadoes, you have that concern on the right-hand side because, that's where the best mixing ratios are, the best chances for tornadic activities on the right-hand side of a cyclone. So if the system digs its way inland, the coastal areas on the right-hand side would probably have a bit of a tornado threat. However, here's the thing. If the system pulls north and if it stalls and then moves eastward, that would mostly keep the tornado threat out in the water. So, like I said, it just depends on the scenario that it takes, essentially. But regardless of what's going to happen, we're likely going to have quite a bit of rain with the system, regardless of whatever scenario. If it comes inland, if it stalls, it's going to be bringing a lot of rain regardless, especially, like I said, if it stalls and starts moving eastward a little bit. Yeah, regardless, a lot of flooding will be a concern. What's up, Roby? Good to see you. John says, I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. How am I looking? So, Charleston area here. Let me go ahead and bring up our area here for you. Go ahead and hop you guys back over here. So, go ahead and turn on my settlement settings here. So, Charleston, yeah, so Charleston is an area that we definitely do need to, look out for. I mean, considering that, you're pretty coastal here, Charleston could be in some impacts for sure. Honestly, John, at this point in time, I would definitely, start getting prepared for the system, as you can. One thing I would check is if you have a generator, like I mentioned this a couple times so far in the stream, but if you have a generator, this goes to really anybody here, make sure it has new gas, make sure it's topped off, maybe even some reserve, make sure you have some reserve gas, make sure your oil's good. It's good to, change your oil and, your generators frequently, every other season or so, or every season or so, just to make sure that it's ready to go, just making sure that it's up to maintenance. Now would be a good time to, maybe just get a little bit extra water, maybe a little bit of food, and put it in your safe spot. And, medicines, important paperwork, anything sentimental or important to you, put it in your safe spot, which should be kind of towards the center of your home, away from windows and stuff like that. That's where you should dedicate your safe spot, essentially. But yeah, now would be a good time to, just start getting ready for it. There is still some things that can happen. Best case scenario, say you prepare for the worst and the system ends up doing something where it's not as impactful. It's better to be over prepared for an event than not prepared enough for an event. You know what I'm saying? So it's just good to make sure that you're on top of it regardless. Let's see. Rain is definitely the biggest concern, especially with the low land levels there. Yeah, I mean, rain, I think that's going to be the main problem. Flooding, it just in general, is probably going to be the biggest problem, overall. I think that is going to be the greatest concern for the most part. Absolutely. But anyways, that's that. So let me go ahead and hop you guys back over here to the Hurricane Center. So like we mentioned here, the NHC, the Hurricane Center, we do indeed have warnings already in place. Like we mentioned, we do have those tropical storm warnings in effect for some of these central islands here in the Bahamas, including like Cat Island, Long Island, Exuma and Cays, San Salvador. So yeah, you guys are under warnings already. These are tropical storm warnings, meaning, hey, tropical storm conditions is expected to occur. And then, of course, we do have some tropical storm watches for the northern islands, out there by like Freeport, Abaco, I have no idea how you say that one, Nassau, let's see here. I have no idea how you say some of these names. But yeah, so the northern islands here, we do a lot of watches in effect. So watches mean, these tropical storm conditions will be quite possible in the future. Monitor the conditions for possible warnings. And then, of course, we do have those warnings in effect saying, okay, tropical storm conditions is expected to occur. So prepare immediately. So, yeah, the Bahamas need to start preparing now. They should be preparing now for it. The U.S. East Coast should also start preparing, I believe. Just making sure that basic things are, up to date. Like I said, generators and stuff like that, make sure they're ready to go. Let's see here. Hi, Andrew. Am I still far enough inland or should I leave here? Yeah, you're good. Aren't you in Macon? If I remember correctly. Yeah, given Macon, I mean, you're far enough inland. The system's like I said, it's not final yet, but system really, or the models really want this thing to go towards like South Carolina right now. But yeah, if you're in Macon, you're far enough inland, and in Georgia, which Georgia's probably, I mean, interior where you're at will not really be heavily impacted. So no, you should be fine. I wouldn't worry about it. My biggest concerns right now is for some of these coastal areas, throughout like maybe portions of coastal Georgia, coastal South Carolina especially, coastal North Carolina as well. I'd definitely keep an eye out there for. Most of it would be a rain issue. Let me actually. All right, we're gonna actually gonna do something real quickly. I do want to look at models real quickly. In terms of rainfall, now I know that they're going to be very. Wow, look at this. I know they're going to be very all over the place, varying all over the place. Look at all that dry air the system could bring in. Goodness. Let me actually bring up some of these models. Actually, we're going to pull up a different page here for you guys. 1 second. I do want to bring this up here so we can kind of see maybe how much rain we could expect out of the system. Now, once again, it's way too early to be for sure, but I'm just kind of curious to see where the models are kind of showing things right now. You know what I'm saying? So let me hop y'all over here. We'll look at the GFS first. We'll do precipitation. Total precip accumulation. Okay, so this is GFS. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so you can kind of see why this is a big problem. Remember, this is still pretty early in terms of, it's being for sure on the rainfall, but, dude, wow. Yeah, we could be seeing a lot of rain out here, especially if that system stalls, you know what I'm saying? What about Euro? Let's see, ECMWF here. Wow. Holy cow. Euro is really, really bad. Maybe showing some areas like over 10 inches of rain. Maybe a foot in some areas. Wow. Yeah. So that's what I'm mostly concerned about. Is if we get that amount of rain, dude... Holy cow. Especially with the, the coastal impacts as well. All that water kind of pushing inland. Between the surge potential, you also got the big rain potential too. So a mixture of rain and surges, it would be a very, very big flooding threat overall. I got you, Dirge. Let's see, Gabby says, should Raleigh, North Carolina be watching the storm? Let me grab Raleigh here. We'll hop you guys back over here real quickly. Oh, okay, I see Raleigh, actually. That's right. Raleigh, honestly, far enough inland where I don't think we're going to have any big, super windy concerns. I mean, it definitely could get a little windy. It just depends on what it does, how strong it gets, stuff like that. There could be some winds out there. Rain could be an issue. It just depends. I mean, models are still all over the place here. But, yeah, I mean, Raleigh could definitely be in for some impacts here. I think mostly rainfall would be the concern. I don't know if let me check real quickly. I don't know if the WPC has any rainfall outlooks right now. Here, let's see. So this is for day 1, day 2... Day 3, oh gosh, wow. Day 4, day 5. Look at that. Day 5 is already a big level 2 threat for flooding. Oh man. Yeah. So that's. I mean, if trends continue, if things actually play out like the way that these models are suggesting, then. Oh my gosh. Then, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this easily becomes a moderate or high risk for flooding. Would not be surprised. Here, let me show you guys this here. This is the latest GFS run here. This is this is the 12 UTC GFS run here. There you go. Here's the latest 18 UTC run here, really showing the system get right up on the coast there. The previous run before that on GFS shows the system just really digging inland. And just really piling up the rain there. Oh my gosh! Thank you so much. It couldn't It couldn't beam. Thank you so much for the 10. I appreciate it. Saying thanks for answering all of our questions. Some of us get so nervous. Thanks again, Andrew. You're very welcome. Thank you so much, my friend. That is really, really nice of you. Thank you for the support. That really helps me out a ton. So thank you for that. And you are very welcome, my friend. Like I said, that's the whole reason we're here. Is to make sure that you guys are staying up to date and that you guys are weather aware. That is what matters. And we'll definitely continue to do so. But thank you so, so much for that. That is greatly appreciated, my friend. Let's see here. Hald says Middleburg, Florida. So Florida's impacts are probably going to be pretty minimal, to be honest. I feel like this is more of a Georgia, Carolina coast kind of concern. Okay, yeah, I mean, you are towards Jacksonville, so that would be the greatest probability for impacts, in Florida, essentially, would be like the northeast coast here. I mean, the cone does include this region here, but I think it's unlikely that the system will just really shift this way. If anything, the system will probably maybe trend more eastward, but who knows? Who really knows? System will slow down, though, as it approaches over here. So we'll have to see. Absolutely. So keep an eye on it. Definitely keep an eye on it. Let's see. I don't see any big-time flooding impacts already. Yeah, so it should be fairly minimal. Anyways. Let's see. To those of us in southeast coast of Georgia, even if you are inland, still be prepared. Don't take the storm for granted. I couldn't agree more. I really could not agree more. And you know why? Because, like I said, rain from this system will even reach those really far inland areas. Yeah, I mean, you probably won't have, any coastal problems like, rip currents or, surges especially. Those won't be an issue for people inland, of course. But, like we mentioned, the rain is still going to reach you guys. And there's going to be a lot of it, more than likely. So, Jason says, how have I been? I've been pretty good. Hopefully you're doing good yourself, my friend. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I agree 100%. We need to make sure that you guys are watching this even inland as well. Not just coastal, not just a coastal concern. This is going to be a deep flooding concern, I really believe. Because like we said, models really want that northern side especially to be very, very saturated. This is the GFS model, by the way. This is the 18 UTC GFS. Has everything just off the east coast of Florida. Goes right up, right on the South Carolina coast there, dumping all kinds of rain. I mean, even well up here into the mid-Atlantic. I mean, look at this. Very saturated. Our SKUT charts here really show literally no gap between our dew point line and our temperature line indicates high humidity, condensing moisture, everything. So, yeah, very, very much wet up here for sure. And you can see on the drier side, on the bottom side of the storm, just how big of a gap there is between your dew point line and your temperature. Low humidity up here. Yeah, so I mean, dry air could certainly be a bit of a concern on the system. Let's see, HWRF here. This is one of the main hurricane models. You can see has it going right on the coast there. Like I said, if it stalls, like this model suggests, you can see it just kind of stops and sits there for a second and then starts moving away. Dude, the amount of rain on that is going to be crazy. Look at that. All of that rain along the coastal areas here. And, at this time being as well, here, let me go ahead and bring up my pen here so I can draw on the screen for you guys. But, at this time as well, actually, I need to restart the pen. Man, it does this every once in a while, man. I tell you. Let's see. Exit. So, sometimes when I launch my pen, it just doesn't want to work. Of course. Here, let's go ahead and relaunch it, though. It should work now. But yeah, I mean, a lot of rain for those areas here. And then at that point in time, we're going to have a lot of that, a lot of those winds really battering the coast. I mean, even if it just sits there. And because of all those winds are pushing inland, it'll move all that water too. That's the thing about the winds is that it actually, pushes water. The winds really like to push the water, which will, really move a lot of water inland, I believe. So, that's that. And you got some of the waters pulling away on the other side, which, can create a huge rip current problem. Which, I mean, regardless, yeah, rip currents are going to be a big issue. Let's see here. Brady says, when will we know what it's going to do? Well, I mean, right now we already know enough to tell you guys to start getting ready for it. But, like, solid, when we're going to 100% know what it's going to do is probably, I mean, we're not even always 100% sure, what it's going to do. But probably the 2 to 3 days before the event, I think will be like the best, which is like in a few days essentially. We already know enough now to start preparing for it regardless. So now we don't need to wait. We need to start preparing now. Let's see. Samwise says, I am in North Carolina near Greensboro. Let me check. See what we got going on there for you, my friend. Yeah, I mean, North Carolina could be definitely impacted, which likely will be. Okay. So you're by Greensboro. So that's really far inland, which is good. But like I mentioned, even for some of those really far inland areas, that rain, still absolutely could be a big problem, flooding and stuff like that. I mean, you can see here's GFS, the 12 UTC run. Even the latest 18 UTC shows quite a bit of rain out there. The rain's still going to be kind of all over the place, essentially. Then you got Euro showing a lot of rain as well. It's just, very, 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 very all over the place still with the exact rainfall totals. But still, like I mentioned, just a lot of rain regardless. So, prepare for flooding, and especially if you're in a low-lying area. It's obviously good to start preparing for that. What's up, John? Good to see you, my friend. See, Samwise says, thanks NWW Legendary status. Appreciate it, dude. And you're very welcome. Let's see. I'm in Asheville. Will it affect us last year like Helene? So Asheville is really far west. It will not be as significant for Asheville, I don't believe. I mean, like I said, totals are still early to tell right now, but I think majority of the rainfall will be for like North, South Carolina, portions of Georgia and stuff. I think that's where the main issues are going to be. Let's see. Faith Cat says, I have a friend in Eden, North Carolina. Can you check it out? The flooding is going to be there. Yeah, I got you, my friend. Let me pull up Eden, North Carolina here. Okay, I got you. Yep, so this is up north. This is near like Greensboro. So obviously really far away from, any, big coastal concern. Yeah, I mean, you're way far inland. But here's the thing. The rain will still likely even reach up into these regions here, especially if it really digs inland. If it slows down and pulls eastward, there's still going to be a lot of rain up north, which is going to allow for tons and tons of precipitation regardless, possibly. Once again, we're still not 100% sure on exact totals per se, regarding the, accumulations and stuff. But, the region could definitely get some heavier rainfall and stuff like that. Will this tropical cyclone hit southern Georgia? Like coastal Georgia? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. Definitely possible. I mean, there's still well in the cone you can see here. Cone goes all the way down to northeastern Florida. That's where the center could end up, but I'd say it's unlikely to be over here at this time. More than likely, the system's going to come, inland here, just off the coast of the Carolinas, and then either A, just continue digging inland, or B, go eastward a little bit. But regardless, it's going to get right up on the coast here, and then it's going to shoot its way eastward. Let's see here. This reminds me of Harvey, Houston. Yeah, Harvey stalled quite a bit, but Harvey was also a lot bigger of a storm too. But yeah, they both do share potentially that flooding threat. Absolutely. Tyler says, I feel like the weather models are just having an aneurysm for what I read. Gotta love rare events. Yeah, no, it's definitely a little tricky. This one is a little bit tricky to forecast because a lot of impacts are in place here. But like we mentioned, the system, it's just kind of, it's different because it's going to really slow down, and it could slow down, go inland. It could slow down, pull eastward. Like we were just talking about here with the hurricane models. This is the current run that we have. Actually, sorry, this is the previous run. This is the current run we have. You can see some of the models now really support the thing kind of pulling away, but it's still having the system right on the coast right on the coast. And regardless, even if it does this, there's going to be a lot of precipitation up north, though. The system is going to be very moist on the upper sections of the storm, which is, going to really drive a lot of precipitation out there. What are the chances of landfall? Pretty much 50-50 right now. I mean, it's, like I said, 100% going to cause problems at this point in time. But, like I said, latest guidance right up on South Carolina there. Half the model show it going inland, half the model show it going right on the coast, and then pulling us slightly eastward. What is the tornado threat for this? So, if the system pulls north, slows down, then goes east, there would be little to no tornado threat. However, if the storm goes inland and the right-hand side of the storm does end up over land, then there would be likely a tornado concern. It just depends on what it does, essentially, like what scenario. ATR says, I'm in Lawrence, South Carolina. Do I think we'll see impacts? Well, I mean, South Carolina in general will likely see impacts. I mean, just everybody in South Carolina will likely see some forms of impacts with the system. Let me see where you're at, though. Okay, yeah, so you're on the far western side. So, models in their early stages, I mean, still do show quite a bit of precipitation out here. I mean, obviously not as significant as, the coastal areas could be. So there's GFS here showing a lot of heavy rain going inland here. That's 12 Zulu. Here's 18 Zulu. Big difference. So you can see it's just too early to tell with the totals. But from the trends, I mean, it looks like, yeah, that rain is going to be a bit of a problem, maybe even out there by you. So, how many hurricanes are out there now? So right now we have one hurricane in the Atlantic. That's Humberto. Right now, Humberto is a Cat 3. It will become a Cat 4 here very soon, and I believe it could become a Cat 5. Not the one that's going to hit the U.S., by the way. No, this is the other storm. Just want to make that clear. Yeah, this one over here, I mean, it's going to be really short, or really, really close to Cat 5 already. I mean, we're 7 mile an hour short at its peak forecast here, so. Anyways. After 6 days out, I'm looking for more trop activity, which would enhance play. Okay. Well, we'll focus on that if it becomes a problem. Like I said, right now we're just going to mostly keep everything on the tropics. Let's see here. Gabrielle remains are going to hit Portugal. Yeah, Gabrielle is, that cone's no longer there, but yeah, it did cause big problems for some of these areas out east. Let's see here. What is Invest 99B? That is a system in the Indian Ocean, a little far away from here. John says, what's it going to be like in Hinesville, Georgia? Oh, let me look. Let's see. Pull up Hinesville, Georgia. Hinesville. Okay. Yep, so you're pretty coastal. You're out there by Savannah. Yeah, I mean, impacts could be pretty decent. Like I said, a little bit of uncertainty, obviously, the exact impacts right now. But, there could definitely be quite a bit of rain, maybe some winds. Just depends. Like I said, the cone of uncertainty is still pretty large. I mean, the cone goes all the way through these areas here. So that means theoretically the center could end up along this entire coastal area somewhere. So you just see that it's a little different. I mean, say if a system, the system went as far west as possible, that would have huge differences in impacts as, say, if it went up north, this high, That's what I'm saying, that, it would be a massive change in the forecast. Let's see. I hope we get some wins in South Carolina. I like the excitement. Storm, I don't want it to be bad. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy a nice tropical cyclone, but yeah, they cause more problems than the good. So, Liz, thank you so much for the $2, my friend. What can I expect for Charleston, South Carolina? So Charleston's probably going to be one of the most impacted areas in general with the system. So Liz, I do really want you to, be watching this one pretty closely. Now, like we mentioned, there is still uncertainty exactly. There is potential for a landfall nearby with the system. So we'll have to monitor that. Regardless, rain is going to be a big problem more than likely. So I do really need you to honestly start preparing for the system, Liz. Just make sure that you have everything up to date. Like we mentioned, if you have a generator, make sure it's good running, good gas, good oil. Reserve, of course. Make sure that you have, just your safe spot. Get it together. I would start preparing the sooner the better, essentially. Like I mentioned, at the end of the day, say if it doesn't become as big of a concern as it looks like now, which I'd say it's pretty unlikely at this point. I mean, it's likely going to be a big problem, but it's better to over-prepare than under-prepare. So I would start now if you can. I wouldn't wait till last minute. Could it go west into Tennessee after landfall? Unlikely. Even if it did, it wouldn't have really much impacts, I don't think. So, no. But it's, too hard to tell. Models kind of have it pulling the other way, actually. That's scenario 1. The models have it slowing down right on the coast and pulling eastward. Then you have scenario 2, which has it kind of going maybe inland, stalling quite a bit. So, we'll see. Let's see. People in upstate South Carolina are already buying a ton of gas. Long lines already. Wow. Yeah. That's why it's good not to wait either. If you wait, who's to say that all the gas will be sold out by the time you get there? So first come, first serve type of thing. Absolutely. Yeah, so just, the earlier the better you guys can prepare for the system, the better, essentially. And, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned this anyways, say we, the system's going to be a big problem for you. You buy a bunch of food, you buy a bunch of water, okay, and you're ready. And say last minute, I'm not saying it will, say last minute, the forecast changes dramatically, okay? Say it's not going to be as big of a problem. You still have all that food and water. You're going to eat and drink it anyways at some point. If not, just save it for the next system. You know what I'm saying? Non-perishable, of course, and stuff like that. But that's just what I'm saying. It's better to over-prepare. It really is. Absolutely. Yeah, flooding is going to be the biggest problem on the system, I think. Back in Helene, it took 3 to 4 hours to get gas. You're limited to how much you could get. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, Helene was definitely a beast in its own. This one is not as... You can't really compare this one to Helene. It's a little bit different, but they do share some similarities. I mean, both tropical cyclones, but also, both of these are likely going to be bringing a lot of rain regardless. So let's see here. If Humberto affects it, could it not develop or make landfall? Well, it depends on how Humberto affects it, because there will likely be some effects from Humberto on the system. It wouldn't just not develop at this point in time. I mean, it's going to happen, but it depends on Humberto, how big it gets, how strong it gets, where it is, how big this system becomes. There's so many inputs that can determine the impacts in general. Like I said, there's so many moving parts. But, I mean, yeah, Humberto definitely could affect the system in many ways. Let's see. Back in, we were stuck in a campground for 1 week, trapped with trees wrapped in power lines in the park. That's crazy. Glad you're okay, though, ATR. Wow. Yeah. Helene was a different breed of storm, man. Helene was a bad one. So was Milton too. You don't hear about as much of Milton as you did Helene. Helene was a big problem inland for a lot of people. Milton was just, slammed Florida really hard, and it just so happened to make landfall right over me. That was quite a storm, I tell you. Didn't Helene stall over North Carolina? I think it did. Yeah, I think it went inland. It made a Big Bend landfall. It went inland, and I think it really slowed down, and then it kind of did something like this, I believe. Went up by like Kentucky, Tennessee as well, but it did slow down quite a bit and dumped a lot of rain. You know, the thing about the geography here is there's a lot of mountains, so a lot of that water ran down those mountains into the valleys and really flooded out the places. So that's what really amplified Helene's impacts. But anyways, that's enough of that. Goodness. Yeah, that's crazy, ATR. I'm just glad, like I said, I'm glad you're okay. Glad you made it out of that all right. Yeah, these systems, man, no joke. I you know, like I said, they're no joke at all. And we definitely do need you guys to be ready and to be prepared here. Anyways, folks, well, I think we're probably going to roll off here soon. Just wanted to hop on here. We've been live a little bit over an hour here. Just wanted to kind of hop on, do a little bit of an update. If you guys have any questions, I mean, throw it down in the chat. I'll be more than happy to help. I don't know if I mentioned this today or not, but we will be doing coverage on this system when it happens. Okay, I'm gonna dedicate, hopefully, a long day to do coverage on this system here. Okay, so we'll make sure to be here in order to watch it with you guys, and we'll continue to give you guys coverage. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. That way you guys can stay up to date with everything. You know, if you guys could leave a like too to help spread awareness, and most importantly, the thing you guys could do to really help us out is share this channel to as many people as you can, because that will ensure that, you know, they are staying up to date, and that'll also help out our channel to push it out further to help more people out. So you guys can make a huge difference by sharing, which would be greatly appreciated. It will be a big help. What's up, Raven? Good to see you. But anyways, folks, well, thank you all for joining. I appreciate you. You know, like I said, we'll pick up on this tomorrow. Liz, thank you so much once again for the donation. Let's see, it couldn't beam as well, and thank you, Matt. Thank you all for the support. You know, it's greatly appreciated. You guys help keep us rolling. Just want to say thank you all for the people who have donated. You guys are awesome. You know, we couldn't do it without y'all's support, so thank you for that. And alrighty. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining. You guys take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your night. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. We'll do some more updates for you all, and we'll make sure to keep you guys informed and up to date. Alrighty? Alright, everybody. Thanks for joining. Y'all take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day or night, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, my friends. See ya later on.